Welcome back, Source Nation. You're listening live to Mailbox Sundays with your hosts, Dr. Terry Jackson, life coach Tem'Ti, and Pastor Kenny Smith.
Source Nation, welcome back to Renaissance Relationship Therapy with me, your host, life purpose coach Tem'Ti. As I stated earlier, special guest tonight is relationship coach Kathy Dawson, and she has a section on her website called Ask Coach Kathy. And someone asked her, do you believe in New Year's resolutions when it comes to relationships? And her answer was, I think starting a new year is a good time to reflect upon the last year in a relationship, its successes and areas for improvement. Rather than making grand sweeping resolutions, I suggest people focus on what positive mini habits they would like to incorporate into their lives. And the key words that really jumped out for me are positive mini habits. You know, these are the things that we need to do well in a relationship, to do them more and to continue to do them better. It's cultivation or the culture within your relationship, but you have to mindfully develop it. And it may seem like hard work, but shouldn't the person that you share your bed with be worth this work? And we're going to make you really think about that, how you're going to answer that question, because the next 10 steps that you're about to hear can make you decide either way if the person you're sitting, you sleep next to every night, if they're actually worth it. So Source Nation, she's here right now. I want us to give a big Source Nation welcome to relationship coach Kathy Dawson. Coach Kathy, welcome to Renaissance Relationship. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, well, thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. For those real quick who may not be aware of the work that you've done and the inspiration behind what you do, just give us a brief history of Coach Kathy Dawson. Paint us that portrait.
Sure. I've been a coach for 23 years. I started in 1992 under the tutelage of a woman named Dr. Ellen Friedman from California, and she had workshops back then, and I was trained in her work. And I brought her work to Cleveland, Ohio back in 1992. And from these workshops for men and for women, spun off my own coaching business. And I've written several books and columns for Plain Dealer, which is our major newspaper here, and do a lot of radio and TV around the topic of relationships. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, and I love what I do.
Absolutely. And, when I went to your site, just tons and tons of topics. Again, everything for every aspect of every relationship is very practical information. It's well thought out, well researched. I mean, you really do the business. And when I saw the 10 rules to dating your mate, I'm like, okay, we have to talk about this because, it's a thing today. There's never enough time. You can just lose so much focus of your relationships. And in order to keep it fresh, the creativity may not come straight away. So having these rules is like a jump start. So I really wanted to go through them to, find out more about, why you suggested each rule. And also, if your partner doesn't want to contribute or to partake in those rules, what could that possibly mean for your relationship? So,
so on the homepage of my website, that's where you saw the rules. And I'd like to actually start with number 10 because that's the first one I teach couples to do in order to generate having quality time together each week. So what I teach a couple to do is to have what's called a weekly meeting. And this sounds a little business-like, but in reality, when you're in a committed relationship, it's kind of like a business and not your partner. So the weekly meeting begins to be about 5 minutes long, and over time, maybe over 2 or 3 weeks, the longest it will run will be 20 minutes. But one of the things that comes out of this weekly meeting is you two sit down with your calendar and you commit to a date for a date. And I'm not talking just a Saturday night date or Friday night date. I mean, those are the common kinds of dates. But it doesn't matter to me when you have the date. As long as you have it, it could be in the morning, it could be noon, it could be night, it could be Saturday, it could be Monday. It really doesn't matter to me. But the point is to carve out that space time together. So that's the one, I call that the most important tool in the tool bag when I work with a couple. I teach them 35 tools, and the weekly meeting is the most important one because several things spin off of it, and the date each other is one of those things.
So rule number 10, very significant, having a weekly meeting to schedule your date on the calendar. And so, of course, this falls into, I guess, prioritization, making your partner feel important, letting them know that having this date is important. But, so you're doing this. At some point, does the natural mojo of the relationship kick back in and you don't have to schedule it so much, or it doesn't matter? Even if it's working, well, keep it working. Is that the kind of ethos behind it?
Absolutely. In fact, and this is the truth, my husband and I just had our weekly meeting before this call.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
We have it. We have it every Sunday. Sometimes we go off site and we'll go to a coffee shop or something. But it's so cold out and we just decided let's sit by the fire and do our weekly meeting. So that's what we did. But we've been doing it for years. We've been married 31 years. And I'll tell you what, when you stop having this weekly meeting after having it for a while, you can feel it's missing. So I want people to think of this as an anchor to their relationship. You can use the meeting to discuss whatever it is you want to discuss as long as it doesn't go past 20 minutes. Because when it goes past 20 minutes, it becomes very labor intensive, and then it doesn't feel like you want to have it anymore. But the big thing that comes out of it is getting that time on the calendar that says, look, we're going to spend one-on-one time together doing whatever it is. And the other thing that you do at the weekly meeting is you decide between the two of you who's going to plan and execute the date. And if you have kids, who's going to get the babysitter? So the same person does those three things, and you alternate. Because you know how sometimes in relationships it's the same person, they feel like an activities director. They're planning the date whenever. So this gives you a chance to switch accountability. And it balances out your dating life. I call it a round robin. So 1 week, one person does it, right? They plan it, they execute it, they get the sitter if they need to. The next week, the other person does it. The third week, you work as a team to come up with an idea.
And it absolutely, you feel if somebody else is going to think about the date and consider it and organize everything, then, it's like king for a day or king for a week this week, then she's queen for a week that week. And, it makes everyone feel important. Now, it's like when we look at rule number 1, you say your date with your mate must be a minimum of 1.5 hours long. And is that in the interest in quality? Is that why you specify 1.5 hours?
Yes, it's so funny because sometimes people come and say, we had a date. We drove to, we did a couple errands. And I'm like, no, that's not a date. Now, that's not a date.
Right.
So a date, and seriously, if you want to have an 8-hour date, go for it. That's up to you. But at least an hour and a half, and an hour and a half goes pretty quickly. That's a minimum, right? Usually people, if they're going to get a babysitter or whatever, they're going to be more than an hour and a half, but the minimum is an hour and a half. And a date, by the way, can be a walk in the park. So that can be an hour and a half if you want it to be. Or it could be coffee. It could be whatever you want it to be.
I mean, it is almost like the sweet spot between, an hour will just like you blink and it's gone, right. 2 hours can be like, you start thinking, okay, we got to get back. We're paying by the hour for the babysitter. Hour and a half, that just kind of like gives you enough time to just get there, relax, and then you usually got a good hour to just do whatever it is you need to do. So that's actually a great point. You have rule number 2. You and your mate must be together on your date without children, family, or friends. That one should be a no-brainer for most people. But imagine if you did have one person in the couple who felt awkward being alone with their partner, for that long because they felt like, I really do need to be with the kids or I do need to be at work. What would you say to them? What kind of advice would you give them?
I would say, okay, notice this discomfort, feel it, and then do it anyway. I mean, it's all about, it's like the Nike commercial, their whole big thing is just do it. I mean,
right.
we can talk ourselves out of anything, right?
Yes.
Even with people who have contentiousness in their relationship, I deal with this all the time. I say, look, there's a place to talk about that, but when you're on your date, that's not the place. I want you to start having a muscle memory for going out and having it be problem-free, and it can be an activity. Sometimes an activity is better than just going for coffee or dinner because it gives you something else to talk about, right? I mean, if you're, I don't know, playing putt-putt or you're snowshoeing or, whatever you're doing, you're talking about the experience of doing it. And it just gets you out of that feeling of, I'm not used to being alone with this person. We haven't been dating for years. Why am I doing this? Set that aside and just do it. And after you do it, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're saying.
Now, after you do it, sometimes, but often, the feelings follow. If we sit around waiting to, feel like we want to do it, we don't do anything, right? But if we get our body moving and we do it, the feelings can often follow that.
Absolutely. It does seem like, I mean, again, all right, we said, yes, if one person in the couple felt awkward, but then, you have to think about it. Well, you're married to this person, so, you shouldn't be feeling awkward. So try and do something together, and maybe that will get rid of the awkwardness. And then you briefly touched on, the following rule, rule number 3, keep your date problem free. And, we know there can be simmering issues, the argument from last month, what you did a year ago. And it can be a thing where somebody always wants to bring that up, especially when you make quiet time, you get on, you're getting along, and then it comes up, why couldn't we always be like this? Why did you have to do that? Blah, blah, blah. And these things come up. So I'm sure it can be tough to forget your issues. But I do understand what you've written. It has to be done. You have to keep the date problem free. Do you recommend some type of mental preparation for this? Because sometimes people can just fly off the handle,
Yeah, here's what I recommend. I mean, if you've got stuff hanging out there that's unresolved, unfinished business, that's just building up as resentment, and it doesn't matter to me whether you come see me or go see anybody. You need to get professional help and have a space where you and your partner can work on those issues and learn the tools and the skills to do that, so that you have a venue for that, so that when you go on your date, you don't have to bring it up. You know that you're going to talk about it either in the office or wherever you go to see someone, or at a different time at home or a different place. But boy, you got to make sure this date is really sacred and is problem free, because it's going to go down it's going to tank. Okay, and that's not a motivation to keep dating. If you think that's what's going to happen on a date.
Absolutely. That is. And is that something that, so let's just say you did have a couple and they're like, we want to start dating, but we do have some unresolved issues. Do they date while they are going through their counseling to resolve their issues, or would you recommend, well, look, clear the air, resolve the issues, and once you do that, then you start dating? How would you do it?
I get them out there dating right away. On the second session.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if you want me to just cut me off if you want me to talk about this. One of the first things I do, with them is I have them. They get homework. It's like coming to relationship school, and they have to do what's called create a trust inventory. So they bring in real life material that we work on every time they come in. But in the meantime, we got to start getting them liking each other. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to ask them to set this aside and, let go of the idea of, I have to get this done now because it can't all be done in a short amount of time. Look at how long it took you to get to this. But in the meantime, I want you two to start to relax and just see each other for who you are and for why you liked each other to begin with. But you got to pluck people out of their everyday environment and stick them in different places in order for them to do that and start to make memories again.
Yes, that's the key one. The memories have to change or be challenged or updated at least, because that's what kills it every time.
And they got to rewrite their story, so to speak, They come in with a story in their head. And everybody does. It's a negative story. And so over the course of the 12 weeks that I work with people, they literally rewrite their story by learning new information and practicing it.
So then, so we briefly touched on rule number 4, you and your mate planning a date alternately. And this is, again, it's nice. You can sit back this week and she's gonna do the work. This is something that has to be done willingly, sincerely. Otherwise, that can be another bone of contention. I mean, it just seems as if but it's a great idea, because either way, if your marriage is in problems, it's things like this where it's going to show up where, planning a date for your mate shouldn't be a burden. It shouldn't be a labor. But if you see your partner every time they're doing it and they're complaining and they talk about they have a headache and they can't think of anything, you're like, well, you don't want to do this. And right there, you're kind of getting a vision that, okay, maybe we have some serious problems. So I think either way, like you said, you have to do it, because you got to get to the bottom of whether you guys have got something to work with for the future or if you don't. And it's tough.
Right.
And you got to know.
Yeah, accountability is so important. Both people need to be accountable. And I don't want to be picking on men, but I am going to say this. I get asked this question a lot. The question is, what do women really want? And the answer to that question is they want a man to initiate, okay, on anything. Because when they initiate, that woman feels like she matters to him. So this is a perfect opportunity for him to initiate the idea and get a little creative. It doesn't have to be like, anything expensive even. It's just the fact that he took the bull by the horns and he did it. Same thing for her. But initiating has a lot to do with feeling like you matter. And by the way, when you plan the date, I tell each person, make sure you do not tell the person what you're doing until the last minute, because I want to build anticipation. I want to build spontaneity in your relationship. Now, if you need to give them a heads up on gear, some kind of boots or whatever, that you let them know. But basically, you wait to the last minute so that they can get excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, any little trick will do. And again, even if the date is expected, you're absolutely right. If you don't know where you're going, it's almost like a magic mystery tour every week that you got to look forward to. And it's nice. It's like Christmas every other week when you do this. This is
exactly.
It does take a lot of thought, but I can definitely see how this is going to be huge to pay off. And it's like you said, our lives get so controlled and so restricted by the demands of work, by the demands of, whether it's church or, social events or whatever. Our families can always easily lose out. So just like we organize things in our ordinary lives, we also have to organize things in our family lives. It doesn't always have to be, just go with the flow. No, because nothing else in life works that way. So
that's
you got to put the work in. Yeah.
Now, can you imagine if you owned a if you owned a business and you approached it like, by the seat of your pants like that? I'll work out on its own. It would go out of business, right?
Yes.
So marriage and a committed relationship is like a business. It's not a romantic analogy, but it works. It's really true.
And I know, you do get some people that will, I've heard some people talk about, just go with the flow, live in the moment. And I understand that concept. But when we're surrounded by everything that's based on 9 to 5, everything around us, from the TV shows to when we can buy food, when we can shop, everything is by the clock. So if we're living in this environment, we have to start working with the clock. Otherwise, people can feel free, I guess, to go to the mountains of Tibet and live there, and then they're not governed by the clocks, and then they can live in the moment. But while we're living in this environment, you have to work with the clock, and that means putting your relationship on the clock and making special time. And that's what I get from it. Yeah, these are amazing rules. Source Nation, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Renaissance Relationship Therapy. I'm your host, Tem'Ti, Sahu. I have in the studio with me Coach Kathy Dawson, and we're discussing these magnificent 10 rules that she's written, 10 rules to dating your mate. The phone lines are now open, so feel free to call in if you have questions or you'd like to make a comment concerning our topic. The call-in number is 619 924-0933. Press option 1 to speak. So, Kathy, when we're looking at rule number 5, when your mate plans the date, be appreciative. And, and to me, this is another tough one. Especially, again, if there's a negative backstory to the relationship. It seems like one where you have to let things go, if only for a while. Just let it go. If she wants to go and build a bear, or do you know what I'm saying? Well, whatever it is, she wants to, just go. Just go with it. Just forget everything else. You know, it just seems like one of those situations. And like you said, a lot of times people can be very surprised. They may actually just enjoy it. You know.
Exactly. This is a lesson in letting go. When it is not your turn to plan the date, let go of control. And this can be hard for some people. You know, some people, we all have that level of needing to control, or to a certain degree, some more than others. But when you're not planning the date, this is your chance to say, okay, let go with the flow, and listen, motivate this person, reinforce them for initiating this date by appreciating it, whatever it is. Now, having said that, if you know your partner is deathly afraid of heights, for example, you're not going to plan a hot air balloon ride, or, you know, skydiving, or something that would scare the bejeebers out of them, right? So you need to be sensitive to that kind of thing. That's an extreme situation. But most of the time, that doesn't happen. Just really enjoy the fact that they planned it, that they cared enough to do it.
Okay, so you go on a date and you're being appreciative. Well, when I say appreciative, you know, okay, I don't like this, I don't like this movie, or I don't like this food, but you're smiling through this grin, you know, like, you know, and you know, basically tolerating it. Is it, you know, when do you let them know, okay, you know what, I really do appreciate it. I just didn't really like the thing because it really wasn't my thing, but I did appreciate it. You know, is there a good way of letting your partner know for next time? Can we do it this way without being sounding controlling or unappreciative?
Yeah, well, so you get a couple choices here. It's going to be your turn next to plan the date. So you can either plan something that you want to do, or you really think about what would your partner like. And that's really how you model for them.
Wow.
Doing something you know that they really like. I don't think it would go well if you said, not you, but if anybody said, you know, listen, I do appreciate this, but next time would you do it this way? No, that erases the entire thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. No,
that's
you're
a
absolutely
good question,
right.
though. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. You spoke about not trying to control it, and you just have to, like you said, you know, you didn't like that. If you didn't like that date, it's a great point. To when it was your turn to create the date, you kind of showed them how it's done without saying this is how it's done. You know, if they can have fun knowing that you thought you were that thoughtful and you did things a certain way, I guess it does make them think. Rule number 6 is so today. You know, when you're on your date, put away your technology, your cell phones, your iPad, your whatever. Just, you know, sure, keep you know, a phone on vibrate or something just in case you get a call from the babysitter. You know, you want to be able to hear from the home emergency. You know, you say that's an allowable phone call to take. But other than that, oh my goodness! I mean, getting people to put their phones down these days, it's like you're asking them to take out their eyeballs. And you know, it seems as if, you know, and you know, we've spoken about this on previous shows. If somebody's always fidgeting with the phone, then they're waiting for a call from someone or something that they actually consider more interesting than you. You know, and to me, that's one of the just. I'll be honest, it's like a huge disrespect. I feel.
It is.
You know, it's like
you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, how do you handle that?
Exactly how it says. Put it away. You know, keep it on vibrate in case you have kids. And the only other way, if you're going to pull out an iPad, this is why you do it. Because you're planning a getaway and you want to do research on places you're going to go. I will allow that. All right. You know, let's see, which Caribbean island do we want to go to? You know, that's fun stuff, right? Yeah. But other than that, get rid of it. I mean, we have here in Cleveland, and I wish I could tell you the name of the restaurant. It's on the west side, but there's a restaurant that when you walk in, if you give them your cell phone, they will give you a 10% discount off your bill.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing idea. They should do that again.
Isn't that great?
It is.
They're watching it daily. These people that come in and just are on their phones. They were so motivated to do that because of what they've seen. So.
No, and you see, you see two people sitting down, and between every break, between looking at the menus or waiting for the menus, between the food coming, they're both on their phones, and you're thinking, why did you come out together when you're both on your phones, or even worse, one of them is trying to engage the other, and the other is stuck on their phone? It's like, what's that interesting that can't wait? Like, really? And that's what the thing that goes through my mind. What's so interesting? If it was that interesting, then you should have stayed at home. And
exactly.
And it's one of those things where, again, just like it's another telltale sign that if you really can't put your phone down, then maybe you need to marry what's coming through on your phone, and not because you're obviously more interested in that than with your partner. I mean,
it's a habit. It's changing the habit, right? It's we become habitual with this. So one of the things I teach couples to do on dates, obviously, but also at home, and it's like we're unhooking the IV when I say this, but I say, I want you to have 2 nights techno-free. And they look at me like I'm nuts. But what that means is at least for 2 hours, for 2 nights a week, turn off the TV, get rid of your iPad, get rid of your phone, and just, I don't care if you play Scrabble, if you sit by the fire and read together, but get off the technology. Because, you think this is a problem on a date? Well, you already know this. It's huge just on a daily basis at home.
Absolutely, and you're right. The way that the habits that the brain forms, the stimulation of, somebody sent me an email, something new on Facebook, or the brain just gets used to this newness, and it's coming so fast from so many different angles, but it's empty. It's all empty information. None of it is really for you. When your partner talks, it's for you. There should be nothing more thrilling than that. And like I said, it's just really getting out of one habit and refocusing and getting into the habit of being excited that somebody actually thinks enough to tell you look nice tonight. I like the way you did your hair or whatever. It's
right.
Oof.
And, the thing is people get so used to their technology that when they do turn it off, they look at each other like, well, now what do we do? Right?
Now what?
So I have this idea. This isn't my product, but I'm going to do a little commercial for this little product. It's called the Chat Pack, and you can get it on Amazon for $5.95. They're these little cards that have questions on them that get you talking about things that you may never have talked about in your entire relationship. So if you have nothing to talk about, go out and get this Chat Pack, because at least that'll jumpstart your conversation.
Look at that. It's needed. It absolutely is. Otherwise, if you still find out that you guys are really not that interested in each other, then once again, it's another type of problem we have now. Really,
and that's going to require some outside help.
Right. So rule number 7. Again, a key one. You mentioned it, getting out of your rut. I spoke about this with a client just today. Let's just say you're trying to lose weight because you love eating donuts. You created like donut dispensers in your living room. You got donuts on your table, donuts on the windowsill. So your house is full of donuts, and you decide, I'm going to give up donuts. So, all right, you made a decision, but then you look around at the environment in your living room, and there's donuts everywhere. So the temptation hasn't changed. You may have changed, but the environment hasn't. So you're still going to think about donuts and most likely end up eating them. So this whole thing is about getting out of the environment. It's huge. A change of scene can really make you forget about your issues. And what were the ideas you had? Because it's just like I guess, getting away from anything that reminds you of the problems in your relationship, right?
Right. And NewYorkTimes.com published a study that showed that couples who do different kinds of things on dates actually change their brain chemistry.
Wow.
Their dopamine levels rise, their norepinephrine levels rise, their adrenaline rises, and they start to feel like they once did when they were first dating. So if your dates are, you should see me in my office. First thing I say to a couple is, so what did you do on your date this week? Part of the reason I say that is I want to know for my husband and myself because we want to do different things. I learn more from my couples, I think, sometimes than they learn from me. But if they come in and they're saying, oh, we went to dinner. And then the next week they say, well, we went to dinner. Yeah, we went to dinner. I say, okay, that's it. Bag the dinner. Mix it up. This is getting old. Or if, we went to a movie. You've got to be able to make memories, which is what we said earlier. And if all you're doing is going to dinner, even if it's different restaurants, your body is at a table across from your partner in the same position. That's not going to do it for you. So I have a book that I have on my website called 104 Dates in and Around Cleveland. And it's 2 years worth of weekly dates. We have a lot of really great stuff to do here. And people sometimes don't get out of their little box or comfort zone. So the point of me writing this book was to get them to really do things that maybe get them out of their comfort zone. Go rock climbing or whatever. Right. Just do something. Like for Christmas, my husband got me a certificate for us to go snowshoeing. So, okay, I've never done that before. Have you done that?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I've been around a lot of snow in England, but not snowshoeing.
So I hope I don't hurt myself, but I'm up for it. I'm like, we'll definitely make a memory with it because it's going to be a whole different experience.
Well, it's interesting, when you imagine if you ask couples to go back to when they started dating or anybody, at that time, it was all about, we're doing this, we're going here, we've done this, we've done that, and you go out of your way to think of all these new things to do. So it really just brings back the old energy. If that's what you want, then do what you did at the beginning, which was you really went out your way to do something new and impress your partner every week,
Yes, exactly.
Wow. So, okay, rule number 8. You spoke about, if you go to see a movie, have a coffee or a meal before or after the film, all right? So you speak about having a movie or having dinner, but you made the point of having a coffee before or after. What was the rationale here?
Well, if you go to a movie or a play, it's very entertaining, but you're sitting next to each other facing forward, right? You're not supposed to be talking in the movie or play. So make sure you connect and have some conversation before or after. Sometimes it's fun to have it after because then you can talk about what the movie was about or what the play was about. But if you're just going to go to these things and sit side by side and then get in the car and sit side by side and go home and go to bed, what kind of date is that? You might as well just go by yourself. So that's why I always say either go out before or go out after. But there needs to be some conversation, some connection between you, and problem-free. And also mean connection more than just surface talk. I don't know, what's an example like? I went on my manicure and I got some new nail polish today. That's nice, but go a little deeper. Share a feeling here or there. We need to connect deeper. We tend to what I call snorkel with each other. We stay on the surface a lot, talking about the logistics of life.
Right. It does seem, you're talking about if you meet somebody and, you meet when you're 30 years old or whatever, that's 30 years worth of memories that they have. And it's just going to be amazing. Sometimes you watch a movie and then, your partner turns around and tells you, when I was 15, see what happened in that movie? We used to have something like that. You're like, why didn't you tell me this? I've never heard this before. And then different stories come out. You learn things about your partner that you never knew. And you've been with them for a couple of years. But, people sometimes forget that this is a person who had a whole life before you. And there's so much about them. I read somewhere it takes, on average, 3 years to really get to know someone. you know, so that's a lot. And that's considering that you are talking and opening up regularly. But if you don't get a chance to open up regularly, then this information is really going to end up, you know, for the next 30 years, your partner has material to tell you that you haven't heard.
Right. I love it when I learn something new about my husband. I mean, after 31 years, every once in a while, he'll say something, I'll go, no way. This is the first time I've heard that.
It's a good feeling.
It is a good feeling.
It's very intriguing, and that's what you want. You know, so that's definitely good. A lot of people, I don't know if they've thought about that, but you're absolutely right. You know, you watch the movie, you drive there, you're not facing each other. You're watching a movie, you're both facing the screen. You drive home, you know, it's like, when did you connect? You know, and then by the time you get home, it's the same old problems. You know, he's got to go and do this. She's got to go look after the kids. He may have to do the washing up, and then it's bed. When did you talk?
I know.
You know?
I know. You might as well have just gone by yourself.
I know. Yeah. It's so you've got rule number 9 here, which is have a date with your mate once a week, and it's and it, you know, it can seem like work if that's the kind of relationship you have. But it does need to remain a priority. It has to be, you have to do it. I'm sure at some point, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's quality time. It's, you know, we get deluded into thinking that we have quality time by passing each other in the kitchen or texting each other, or, you know, we forget what quality time is. We get used to not having quality time, and we think that that's okay. It's not okay. I'm telling you, I have a whiteboard in my office, and I'll have people say, oh, we didn't have a chance to do this. Oh, we were so busy. Yeah, we're really busy. And I write the words on the board, and I go, we're so busy. I write them on the board, and I say, you see this? This will kill your relationship.
Wow. It's definitely something to think about, and, you know, the quality, kind of like you said, you know, the brain chemistry starts to change, and like you said, you know, from the norepinephrine to the dopamine, you start to become more excited about it. So it's like, it may seem like a labor at first, but this is where the creativity comes in, which brings us back to rule number 10, which was the most important rule, having this meeting to schedule and to really get the creative juices churning. You know, like I said, when you're trying to impress your husband or wife at the time, you know, your boyfriend or girlfriend, man, you used to like looking in the paper, going online, trying to ask other people, what did you do? I want to go there. I want to take her. Yeah, I'm trying to really get close to her. So I want to impress her. So it's like getting back into that thing. And if that means you've got to plan and do more exotic things, travel a little more, do it, because it's like you said, once the brain chemistry changes, that has an effect on everything else in your life. So if you're worried about your job, you can take that energy you get from your relationship and go to your work and actually be better at your job. It has a knock-on effect.
Yes, harmony at home equals productivity at work.
I know it seems like, you know, a simple thing, but it really is. They just, folks just have to do it. And I think these rules, you've really just kind of, you know, distilled the right essence with the right balance of how people can really practically go about making their relationships better. It's an amazing set of rules, and you know.
Thank you. It's fun to watch. I mean, I get the privilege of being able to witness it. It's, you know, people come in and they're starved for time together, and then, you know, I don't have a whip. I can't make them do it, right? But they're paying me and they're taking their time to come in, and they. Oh, man, there's nothing better than sitting here and watching people week after week turn their boat around and really go a different direction. It's amazing. It's a privilege to watch it.
Wow. I bet it is. Michael, well, we went through all 10, and I really think that, you know, you've done your own work justice in the way you've explained it to all of us and given us a lot to think about. You know, in terms of how people can get, you know, you spoke about the books you have coming out, your website. Give us your information, and you know, so if anybody wants to get hold of you or learn more about you or read these fantastic books that you have.
Well, thank you. Yes, my website is KathyTheCoach.com, and Kathy spelled with a K. Mm-hmm. And my phone number, which is on my website, but it's 216-536-8964. And I coach in person, but I also coach through Skype, and I coach through FaceTime. So I've coached all over the world, which I'm sure you have as well with the technology today. I mean, you can do anywhere. So it's really fun.
Mm. And if there was like, one, piece of information that you'd like to leave in everyone's minds when it comes to, taking their partner seriously enough to want to date them again, what would that be?
Think about how you feel when you feel like you matter. It's really important to romance your partner, and dating is part of that. And the definition of romance is you matter to me on a daily basis. I'm not talking about once a month. And it doesn't have to be, a limo pulling up every day. It doesn't have to be extravagant. There are so many things you can do to show your mate that he or she matters to you, whether it's through words, actions, whatever. It might be a small little gesture. Just do something every single day to let your mate know that he or she matters to you.
Wow. You hear that, Source Nation? Oh my God! They're gonna replay this, Kathy, because this is just it's the purest it's the purest message that I've heard on this show so far, and it's simple, and because of that, it should be very effective, and again, the flip side of it, effective enough to make you realize that if your partner isn't willing to meet you halfway, then you're going to know real quick, using these 10 rules, what you have to do next. It's going to be painful, but it's something that needs to be done, because like I said, everybody needs to matter. Everybody needs to matter. I can't stress that enough. That's
right. And if you have children, it's the best gift you're ever going to give your kids, because they are the direct beneficiaries of what you're doing.
Absolutely. Wow. Coach Kathy Dawson, this has been an amazing conversation. And
thank you so much for having me.
Really, really, really enjoyed it. And I know that, again, Source Nation, please go back, review the show. Visit Kathy's website. We'll have the information up on the Facebook page and on the Source Nation homepage. Kathy, thank you so much for coming through. Definitely would love to talk with you again, because you have so many articles, so many great articles that we can go through. So hopefully at some point in the future we can definitely do this all over again.
I would love that, Tim. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Coach Kathy Dawson. Excellent. So, Source Nation, this very, very, very profound coach with amazing words. And, as the whole point of this discussion that we've had today, the business of life often gets in the way of us planning dates with our partners. Date nights can so easily end up being dinner and a movie every time. And it's not to turn around and say that, a dinner or movie is bad if that's your sort of thing. But, of course, it can become stale if that's the only form of date night that you have together. It's like wash, rinse, and repeat. And what happens with that is that it doesn't lead to any other interesting or exciting ideas for dates. But you should have received some great information tonight that will really get the creative wheels turning in your relationship, and let you start thinking about some new and enticing ways that you and your partner can get to start getting your relationship back together. Remember, it's all about the fuel, it's all about growing closer, and it's all about making the other person a priority. Just a quick reminder, Source Nation, for all my single Atlanta folks, if you're looking for a great singles date, this is now a date on your own when you want to meet someone new. Well, we've got a new matchmaking event coming up where you are personally introduced to the right love type for your personality. This is not a cattle market. This is like, quality personnel, one-on-one. So spaces are limited. So if you're interested, you need to go to www.meetmytypes.com and register today before spaces run out. Source Nation, I want to thank you so much for tuning in tonight. But before I leave, let me thank our sponsors one more time, and they are Scott Cares Foundation, Meet My Types Matchmaking, Urban Grandstand Digital, Chat Photography, Hits Masters, New Covenant of Praise Worship Center, and PS Photography. Also, Source Nation, if you want to contact me, Life Purpose Coach Tem'Ti, you can reach me at meet at meetmytypes.com for any comments, questions, or ideas about the show. We want to hear from you and want to make sure we are giving you what you want. I am signing off, Source Nation. Take care of yourselves. I want to see you right here next week. Peace.